That's what he said.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I didn't know if you were talking about day one. Rumors today that day one, the guys that did Fear 3 actually closed today. That news was new, and I don't know if that's actually a rumor or not. But yeah, I mean, it's sad. I mean, we know people in the industry. It's always sad when anyone gets laid off at any company, especially in this economy. You don't want people to be suffering, or they have families to provide for and stuff. I mean, that's kind of what you think about when you think about those kinds of things. It's not how does it affect us and our ability to create content. It's like, man, how does that affect the dude who has kids, and is going to be able to find another job in an industry that seems like it's contracting sometimes. We're just going towards bigger companies instead of smaller indie developers. So it's sad. I mean, we definitely know people. I know, when any of you guys know what Chaos Studios is?
Yeah.
They did Homefront. I knew a guy there really well that lost his job or whatever, and that's really sad. Because I know him personally, and it's always a bummer. He worked really hard on that game, and that game actually sold really well. So yeah, it's sad. I don't know if any other guys have any other input on that, but that's the way I look at it.
I think IGN generally just soldiers on, and we do whatever we can to continue to cover and support the industry and the community. So that's all we can do.
I'm kind of curious to follow up on that one, because if these mid-sized companies are either getting bought out or they're disappearing, and big companies are getting bigger, but shouldn't there be a lot of smaller ones that are going to iPhone development and that kind of thing? I mean, do you guys see that going on with the market, or?
Well, for sure there are. I mean, we've seen a trend in the past 2 or 3 years, just this glut of developers that are coming out creating everything from apps to free-to-play games to just smaller indie titles that are being released on PC only, some on Steam, and some that even make their way to PSN and XBLA. I mean, all those people that have worked at the Team Bondis or the Chaoses, they make their way elsewhere, and hopefully they're able to contribute. I mean, for us, the biggest thing that I think that we all suffer is the loss of great developers and, by extension, great games. I mean, anytime a Team Bondi closes, just means we're not going to get another LA Noire.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
What's your best advice for graduates who are looking to start their career? And I know you mentioned, Chris, freelancing is a great way, and we're advocates of that. I'm careers with the Art Institute, so my job is to help them in that segue to bridge into their job. So what is it from your perspective, who've been in the industry, who've come that route? What is the best advice you can give to those graduates that are coming into the industry? What are some of the unique things you look for, and how should they position themselves?
I would say this, you're talking about writing?
No,
or like what part?
Just from all aspects. This is game art and design, yeah.
I mean, the best thing you can do is get experience. So I would say start somewhere where it matches what your expertise is. I mean, somebody who's coming fresh out of college is going to be filled with ideas, but they've never shipped a game. They've never they've never written a cover story in a magazine or whatever they're interested in. So I would say where you see these people nowadays who have been working in the industry for 10, 15 years, they all started with their first small job doing whatever it might be. It might be in test, it might be in copywriting, it might be whatever it is. But I would say networking, have a great resume, go to the shows, meet people, and don't be afraid to take a job that looks small, because that's where things kind of start. Most of us started by, one freelance story or one, whatever it might be that wasn't this.
I think that's a really good point, because us being kind of number one in our space, we don't really hire very many people straight out of school across the board, not just in editorial, but in video and engineering and product. We are looking for people with experience, really, and usually like 5 years or so experience is where we tend to start looking. So that's why freelance and stuff is really important to kind of get in there. We do have some entry level, but it's very, very rare. Maybe like, I don't know, 5 to 10% maybe of what we're doing.
Yeah, and also just to echo too, like the networking part of it is really super important, because we do have we get probably on average maybe 10,000 resumes every month coming into us, and so we're a staffing team is about 3 folks. So getting through all those resumes, two of the team. So getting through all those resumes is going to be a really tough to get over in a month. So going to events like this, getting on LinkedIn, getting onto where the community is. So if you're going to be an engineer, going to where the community is online. If you're going to be an editorial, going where they're at, and making a name for yourself and networking. Those connections go back to us, and we'll more likely open up a resume if it comes from somebody that we trust.
That's a really good point.
I have to add because actually I'm
So I just graduated last May, and this is my first job out of college, so I can speak from personal
You were so
experience.
rare, Tiffany.
I know, one out of 100. And so from my own personal experience, I can say it really is a mixture of kind of like a bit of luck, I have to say, but it really is also getting out there and like doing your own legwork. So, I've been a gaming fan since like forever, and so when I realized I need to get a job, I was on IGN's website and I was just looking through the careers, I submitted a resume. But aside from that, I think what really clinched it for me the most was like I went to these meetups and like actually met the people in the office, and I met my current manager at both the First Friday and like the Nintendo 3DS launch, like down at 21st Amendment, and he said that kind of made an impact on him because he personally thought that it showed that I had tenacity and that I was really determined to get this job, and that was kind of what made me stand out from like all the other resumes. So like they said, like networking is super important in person especially. And sometimes it's like my position is like I'm part of like a department that's growing. So sometimes you want to look for IGN. If we're growing a certain team, that's generally like a better way to get in as an entry level than maybe some like the more senior positions. So I'd say like stick to looking at our Facebook job page and like check our job page regularly because I know we got like some new posts stuff or something. So.
Walter has a great story like that too.
Good. I've been a reader for about 10 years, been involved in the site, the blogs, the boards, all that stuff. And just out of the passion of like the community and gaming and everything, like me and a couple of friends started the Game Over Nation podcast and website. And we threw together at PAX a couple of years ago, we threw together a meet and greet for our readers, which is a very small group at a W Hotel. And we invited editors. Greg Miller showed up, Ostertag showed up. It was Levi Buchanan's, Levi Buchanan's birthday, so we're like, screw it, it's your birthday party, And from there, like a few months later, just being involved with the site and like naming my pet turtle, the official turtle, Podcast Beyond. Greg Miller's like, hey, there's a gig opening up at Director Drive, which used to be under the IGN umbrella, and they're looking for a community manager. It's like, you want the job? I was like, yeah. So put in an application. About 6 phone interviews later, I convinced them to turn it from a freelance gig from Miami to fly me to San Francisco. And I flew in on a Wednesday. I flew in on a Friday. I was on a 24-hour live stream on a Saturday. My first day was Monday. So if you want it, you have to drive. Find a way, and you will stand out from the pack. That's the truth.
You have to do more than submit a resume. That's a short story. You have to really figure out how to make an impression and find your voice. Because we see so many resumes, and it's like, unless there's something just unbelievable, then, you have to do something.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just the hard skills, are like on the resume are important. But, even Nigel, we bring people in here who have super amazing talent, are at the top of the game, but we really focus on a culture. And if you're not a cultural fit here, and hopefully through the First Friday experience, you can kind of sense what that culture is. If one person in that team that's interviewing says, hey, I don't necessarily think this person's a culture fit, we'll say no. So know the culture, know the values of the organization, and again, network.
But we're assuming that you've got great technical talent, right? I think that's one of the things we haven't mentioned. If you want to be a writer, you have to be a great writer. Right, so don't make grammar mistakes. All of those basic things we're not mentioning.
Spell your name right on your
Exactly.
Not kidding.
I've seen it 3 times. I've seen 3 people misspell their names on their resumes. So double check it a million times. Just read it over. Get a second set of eyes. Be on top of your game technically too. That's important.
And there's no reason why you shouldn't be putting content online right now, even if you don't have that job that you want. I mean, you have to be willing to put that stuff out there, and there are plenty of free avenues to do that. I mean, you don't have to run out and buy a URL. I mean, you could start a free blog. You can put up content regularly there. I'm not saying that. I don't know, for some people they look at that and go, well, no one's going to read it, so what's the value? The value is you're putting it out there, and you're putting it on a regular basis, and you're getting used to that cycle. And at the end of the day, that's going to be just as valuable as anything you're going to learn at school. So you have to get used to forcing yourself to get through those tough times where, hey, I can't figure out a thing to write here. You'll have that experience. And that's something that when you put that on a resume and someone clicks on that website to see your volume of work, that's going to speak for itself as well. So I would say don't sit back and just expect the job to come to you, but put the best effort out there to make sure that when opportunity knocks, if it's IGN or whatever website, that you have something there to show for the time.
That's the first thing you ask them. What have you written? I don't care about your resume. What have you written? Like when I've had interns come to me like, how do I get a writing gig at IGN? I'm like, well, what have you written? Well, nobody's paid me to write anything yet, so nothing. Like that's not